78% of legal queries now are triggering AI overviews on Google search.
It's not just some recommendations, it's an answer, and it's pushing the maps further down the page.
We have a saying at Scorpion that Google ranks websites and AI recommends brands.
So no matter if you've got a $100,000 a month budget,
right?
If you're not answering your phones, you're not going to show at the top.
Google wants to make sure that they are serving up the right content. And I think, one of the things that's really stood out to me on basic legal searches. On this episode, we talk about how busy Google's been this year and what that means for your law firm.
We'll cover Google core algorithm updates, AI overviews, and AI optimization myths that you'll want to avoid. And in light of some of the changes at Google, we'll get into why first-party data is now a legal marketing asset most law firms don't even know they have.
And how important your first-party data has become to digital advertising. Also, updates to Google local service ads that highlight how critical your intake process has become. All right, welcome back, everybody. Look, this is just really easy. This is Florida makeup, and this is Texas makeup in the summer.
Hey, we got some good beaches out there.
I'm jealous. As everyone can see, Buns is tan and bronze, and I am pale and white. So here we are. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk a lot today about Google, who has been very busy this year. Now, I would argue that Google's probably always pretty busy. I think that a lot of the things that are happening with Google this year are kind of highlighted more because of all this other AI talk.
Yep.
But just some things that have happened this year. There's been a couple of big Google events. There's the Marketing Live event, more recently the I/O event. There's been two big core algorithm updates, one in March, one in May, that wrapped up in June. How's this impacting our legal clients, and what are you seeing like high level? And we're going to talk a lot about Google. We're going to get into AI overviews. We're going to get into LSAs, but just high level, what's your point of view on some of these big things, particularly the algorithm updates this year and what they've meant for attorneys?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say the algorithm updates aren't anything new necessarily. The core updates are usually rolled out quarterly or sometimes only 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So we kind of expect them, again, I mean, and we had one in March and
one
right into going into June. So that's kind of par for the course, I would say. They're always interesting to see what happens with those. We love to, one rolls out, you just start Googling and, checking all your ranking trackers to see what happened. But I think it's just, consistently making it so that you have to have high quality sites.
Yeah.
If you got thin, low quality content pages,
right,
it seems to get, harder and harder and harder for those types of sites, which I love it because, some of the competitors drop off of paying attention to what they should be doing. And Google's always running hundreds of updates throughout the year, constantly experimenting, running different things to see. Because at the end of the day, people like to hate on Google sometimes, but they are genuinely trying to, serve up the best content, the best websites for the searches. Because otherwise, if it was junk, like what happened to Yahoo and some of the older search engines, and people stop using it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And for every, 1% of search volume they lose, that's, it's billions of dollars in their pocket.
Yeah,
right? Gone.
Yeah.
So, I think it's getting tougher. I think I guess I would say it this way: the standard's getting higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
Right?
One of the things that stands out to me about the more recent updates, though, is that they seem to be focused on these kind of your money, your life searches, which we happen to work with a lot of businesses that fit into those categories.
Yeah.
Right. With attorneys, we work with a lot of home services providers. And essentially what this means is that Google kind of values, searches like I've got chest pains in the same way that they value I had a car accident, I need an attorney.
Yeah.
Right. So and I think that makes sense because clearly the stakes are higher for those types of searches, right? Like Google wants to make sure that they are serving up the right content to those types of queries. And I think, one of the things that's really stood out to me on basic legal searches, and let's not get into the AI conversational search yet. We'll come back to that. But your traditional car accident near me search, or car accident attorney near me, family law attorney near me, criminal defense attorney near me, the results page on page 1 seems to be mixing up quite a bit. Like I'm noticing a lot of directories that were getting placement are not getting placement. Some newer directories are getting placement. the mix-up of attorneys that are showing up seems to be dramatic, a little bit more dramatic than it used to be. Are you seeing some of the same things?
Yeah, I mean, I think over the last 20 years, I've seen directories come and go quite a bit. You know, there'll be an update, and all of a sudden there'll be a bunch that will show up on page one. Then there'll be another update, and they'll kind of all fall off, and there'll just be 10, actual law firms on the page. But yeah, I mean, right now, Yelp is in almost all the searches that I do. You know, obviously, Google has a deal with Yelp, and so they're actually sucking in some of that content, right? And I know you didn't want to get into the AI side of it, but I think that, that is becoming such a core part of the search algorithm, even in the traditional Tim Blue links, that it's getting smarter, and that's where the bar is getting raised because they're looking at so many more signals, right?
That's very true.
Directories, you've got a lot of user-generated content, right?
Yeah.
And it's actual, Yelp is actual people going and posting. And so Google is trusting a lot of what people are saying on those directories versus just looking at the website compared to this website compared to this website.
Yeah. Well, staying on that Google results for a second, but kind of pivoting into ways to take care, like kind of ways to capitalize on directory placement in Google. Look, the reality is Google is giving a lot of validation and credence to Yelp right now in these types of searches. So I think that's an opportunity for attorneys to leverage Yelp, right? Running ads and making sure that you're getting reviews on Yelp, although you can't ask for reviews on Yelp. That's a big no-no. But, if you are asking people to check you out on Yelp, perhaps, or you're running advertising on Yelp, then you can benefit from Yelp's placement on Google a lot of times.
That's right. Yeah, I agree.
So really important.
Yeah, well, and also, a lot of these directories end up being third-party validation for searches like best or top, right?
Yeah.
Like Super Lawyers is a big one for them when someone searches who's the best, whatever, and whatever. You see it as a citation on the side, right? So getting in there, Super Lawyers is ranking really well organically, so you can get some traffic there. But then B, again, not to get into the AI side, it's
we're going to get there in a second. Don't worry.
It's where my mind goes.
You can drag us there. It's all good.
All I think about all day long is AI search.
Yeah.
But that is again one of the citations for this, right? And it's pulling from there. So yeah, getting yourself in there. Things like expertise.com shows up quite a bit as well too.
Yeah.
So I do think that a part of your holistic strategy should be to get into these directories. You know. Now there's a dime a dozen out there. There's $300 and you get in. There's a bunch of pay to play essentially. Right. But hey, if Google or ChatGPT is going to reference those directories when it's on searches like who's the best or top, then you should get in there.
Yeah, that's right. Well, speaking of AI search, because I know you're going to keep coming back to it. It's all good. It's all good. And speaking of Google being very busy this year, a couple of things around AI search that I think is very relevant, particularly for law firms and for attorneys. Starting point, Google, for the first time in a really long time, in decades, updated their search bar. May seem like a small thing, but that's actually quite a big move, especially if you look at the history of Google and how much thought they put into the simplicity of the search bar.
Yep.
If you really want to nerd out, you can go back and read some books on that. But I think the bigger the bigger thing impacting law firms today is the amount of times that AI overviews are being triggered for legal related queries on Google now.
Yep.
Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with AI overviews, although you've been probably hiding under a rock if you're not, that is essentially Google answering a question or answering a query that you enter into a Google search bar. And this is a fascinating stat. 78% of legal queries now are triggering AI overviews on Google search.
Yep.
How are you seeing law firms react to this? Because I've experienced it. I've got a few stories that I want to share, but what are you seeing?
Well, back to my one-track mind. It's at least 78%. I think it's a little higher because based on the searches that I do, the traditional, ones that we've been working so hard to get our clients ranking for.
Yeah,
it's almost 100% for me when I'm doing searches, right? So it's at the very top of the page. As you said, it's not, just some recommendations. It's an answer. It's just saying like, here are the firms and here's why we think they're the best or they should be at the top, right? So it is a substantial change, and it's pushing the maps further down the page. It's pushing traditional SEO, organic listings down the page. But as we'll talk about later, the same basics still apply to get in there, right? So I think there's a lot of noise about it.
Yeah.
I think more and more law firms are realizing that they need to be in those, at the top of the page. And so we're getting a lot of questions from our attorneys. I know our sales team's getting a ton of questions on how do you get in there. So the focus has been, to get our clients ranking there.
Sure.
That's where a lot of the good cases are coming from.
Yeah. So let's talk about the types of queries that trigger these AI overviews on Google. And why they happen. I mean, I think if from my point of view, it's really no surprise that, look, if someone's typically looking to hire an attorney, and again, we're primarily talking about your B2C type law firms, could be personal injury, family law, criminal defense, immigration, bankruptcy, probate and estate. But typically if someone is in, unless you get a DUI or you've been injured in an accident, if you're thinking about hiring an attorney, there's typically a little bit of a runway where you are doing research.
Yep.
And that research typically starts online. It starts on Google. But what these AI overviews are doing is they're essentially just answering the research type questions that you have.
Yep.
So I think about queries today more than ever as informational searches or transactional searches.
Yep.
Informational are things like looking for research, and the great thing about all these AI platforms, Google, ChatGPT, et cetera, is that they've just amassed centuries of information.
All the world's knowledge.
And now they're just able to answer a lot of those informational queries just right there so you don't have to go looking.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy about it too is it can help our clients, potential clients, right? The searcher, they may start with one thing, they'll get the answer, and then it'll say, have follow-up questions. Would you like to know more about this or this?
Yeah.
Or if you'll tell me where you're located, I can help you, X, Y, and Z,
sure.
right? And so I think the consumer is now more educated than they ever have been before.
Yeah.
Right? Because all they knew before was what was written on the actual site. These are the potential penalties for this crime, right? Now it's like, here's what you should be looking at. Or for family law, like, by the way, they typically charge hourly fees or have hourly rates between the $250 and $750. So you should ask your attorney, how much is it going to be?
Yeah.
This, that, and the other. I mean, so it's giving them more ideas to ask to do further research.
Yeah. This episode is sponsored by us at Scorpion. If you can't tie marketing to signed cases and revenue, you are guessing. Scorpion gives your firm clear insights into what drives new cases so you can invest smarter and grow faster. Visit scorpion.co to learn more. Let's talk a little bit about the impact that AI overviews are having on, your typical digital marketing KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, your key performance indicators, for any of those that aren't quite sure what KPI is, but like the metrics that you track that are important to you if you are investing in any type of digital marketing, SEO, advertising, all the like. So I think the first one that attorneys are probably noticing is that their organic traffic metrics have probably taken a hit.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that's number one. But does that necessarily mean that their organic leads are taking a hit?
No, not at all. Because again, it can answer a lot of the informational type searches.
That's
for
right.
them, right? Whereas they would have to do a search, click on somebody's website to get the information they're looking for. Now, Google, ChatGPT is just surfacing that information, right?
That's right.
So they can do all their research within Google and never have to leave the page or ChatGPT, right? So they're doing but then at some point in time, they do have to decide to reach out to an attorney, right?
Yeah.
And so the lead is still going to come. They're just not doing the research on your site.
Yeah, you would actually argue that once they actually do reach out, they are actually more in the mode than they ever have been in actually hiring an attorney.
That's right. A lot of the wasteful questions that people may ask when they call an attorney are already answered.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Or at least they've given enough point of view where the person is going to maybe ask some different questions that they wouldn't have asked, right? But they're in hiring mode.
Yeah.
Right. So you move from, as the consumer, you move from this informational type state of mind to gathering like input and what should I be thinking about if I need to hire an attorney to, okay, I'm ready to hire an attorney. Yep. Now I'm going to actually reach out to someone. It makes the intake more important than ever at that point.
Yeah. I mean, the intake folks have to be smarter. I think we said it on the previous episode, but I have a client of mine that, you know, people are calling in asking questions that in 20, 30 years of being, you know, running the firm, they've never had before. But again, it's just their potential clients are just so much more educated. And they're asking questions that only an attorney could actually answer, right? Not the intake staff, because they're not an attorney and they may not even know that, right?
Yeah.
And now someone, you know, Sally off the streets asking these deep, well thought out questions.
Yeah. So now the burning question that all of you are probably wondering and are asking is, well, how do I show up in AI? Like how, because we have a saying at Scorpion that Google ranks websites and AI recommends brands, right? So let's talk a little bit about, and I know we've hit on this in the past, but like let's like really dig into the things that attorneys should be paying attention to ensure that they have an opportunity to be that answer. Mm-hmm. And maybe even some of the things that are just kind of snake oil and trash, and you should just avoid the research avoid the advice altogether.
Yeah. Well, I think it's what you just said. I mean, first off, you got to build a brand, right?
Yeah.
And a brand can mean a bunch of different things, right? Not everybody's going to have the same brand either, right? There are the firms that are going to be the big marketing machines, the powerhouses, they're signing up 200, 300, 400 cases on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
That's one extreme. Then there's the other extreme, which, you know, for maybe a personal injury lawyer, they only handle $10 million plus cases, right? So they're only going to have 10, 15, 20 cases at any given time.
Right.
So they're much more selective. But they can still build a brand without having 200 cases a month, right? Because typically they're knocking down big results, right? So they can be known as the, potential record-breaking settlements, 25, 30, $40 million ones. That is a brand in and of itself as the best trial lawyer who gets the biggest results, right?
That's right.
So you have to have that, and you have to determine what that is. Second is you can't just have a whole bunch of content on the site anymore.
The content's king, Buns.
It is. It is, and it's still important. But the difference is like it's what we call commodity content, right? Or non-commodity content is what you need to write. And so commodity content is something that's easily found anywhere, that can be generated by anybody or like anything.
What should I do if I were injured in an accident?
Anybody can find that.
That's right.
Yeah. Or what are the potential penalties for a DUI, right? Like ChatGPT, Google, they've got that. You don't need to, we do need to write it because you still need to be helpful for your, your potential new clients who come to the website.
That's not going to make you pop and stand out.
That's not going to make you rank. That's right. What the AI overviews are looking for is a unique perspective, right? Or to show your experience in it. So not just saying these are the penalties, but saying like we've had clients where we're charged with X, Y, and Z, and we were able to get
in this market, in this jurisdiction, right? Here's what the outcome was.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we talked about some of those directories from the awards and the accolades as well too. Google does trust a lot of those as a third-party validation.
Yeah.
Right? So getting in super lawyers, saying you're voted top 100, saying you're in the best lawyers in America, right? You actually have to have some marketing content. Why should someone hire you? Not just bland vanilla content that talks about the laws, right?
Yeah.
Because again, anybody can do that. It's just like you would want to market actual marketing to someone. When you talk to them, you're going to say, hey, you should hire us because we've got this experience. We've done this. We've done this. We've been voted this. You have to do the same thing to the AI bots, if you will, and make them understand that you are the best.
Right.
And that's how you're going to stand out in the sea of, all the other competitors that are out there.
So there's brand, there's non-commodity content, which again is writing content that's relevant to your particular client that you're trying to attract, but actually it actually has your point of view on how you can help them. It could be case results in a market that they're in. It could be any number of things. Okay, so reputation.
Yep.
Right. And again, we've talked about this in the past, and I think one of the biggest pushbacks that we get with some attorneys that we talk about is like, well, my clients don't want to write reviews.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get reviews. Yeah, just like we talked about in the previous episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie and say it's easy. There's no easy way to get reviews. You actually have to ask them, and they have to go do it. You can't do it for them. They have to log into their Google account and leave the review. But to your point, AI overviews, like it typically is one of the first things it always talks about is what is said about you online. You know, it'll say has positive client reviews, or hundreds of positive client reviews. And there are lots of firms out there that have reviews. I know of a personal injury firm that has 17,000 Google reviews.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I know several criminal defense firms with well over 1,000 reviews. It can be done, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing it, someone else is. And you need that to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Let's talk about a couple of few things. Well, actually, before we move on, maybe we summarize just how we think about this. I think, at the end of the day, if you really want to be a law firm that is featured in AI overviews, or you want to be a firm that gets great ranking organically in traditional search, it really boils down to be a firm that delivers great value and great results and great outcomes to your clients.
Yep.
Ask them to talk and share about those things, and that is through reviews online.
Yep. Also on your site too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
I see them pulled in all the time where we'll take a case result that client will send to us, we'll plop it on the page. And then next thing you know, a week or two later, the AI overviews are actually referencing the fact that they got a really great result for that particular type of case.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what people want to see when they come to your site is like, oh, they've handled exactly what I'm going through right now successfully.
Yeah. And then to your point, from a content perspective, from a brand perspective, have a point of view. Make sure that your website and everything online reflects that point of view and why it's valid, right? And then make sure that your website and everything online, it makes you easy to get in touch with.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? Like those are kind of the pillars of making sure that you're giving yourself the best shot of being selected either by Google or ChatGPT and their answer, or ranking on search engines. Okay, so
I would also say the traditional SEO things also come into play too. Like your site needs to be fast, right? It can't be a dinosaur and slow, because Google is just going to skip right by all that stuff,
Yeah.
And so will potential clients. I mean, like, how frustrating it is to try to go to a website and it takes forever to load. Like you're just going to bounce off and go find the next one. I'm not going to wait.
That's right. That's right.
It's instant society, right?
Well, I'm glad you actually brought us there, because you kind of talk about the importance of just good foundational SEO.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of
myth busting.
I get a little fired up when we talk about these things, but there's a lot of companies out there that are slinging what I call snake oil,
selling snake oil
to attorneys, and they're talking to attorneys about all these special and unique things that you have to do if you want to show up in AI. Some of my favorites are, you need a AI specific website. I don't even know what that means, people. I got to be honest with you. Like that just sounds
I mean, what is that?
But okay, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Another is you need special schema markup.
Yeah,
and
for everything.
For everything. And you need LLMS.txt files.
Yep.
And you need to chunk your content.
Oh yeah.
Because that's how AI reads content, is in chunks.
Because everything that's ever been written in the history of the world was written in chunks.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Like, really?
Exactly.
No.
That's what I keep going back to.
If you're finding value in Digital Counsel, follow us wherever you listen to podcasts and share this with someone in your firm or network who should be in this conversation. New episodes drop every other week.
So Google released some interesting information, and they actually called a section Mythbusters, things that you don't need to pay attention to when you think about how do I show up in AI search.
Yep.
Right? And some of those things that they kind of said to avoid were you don't need special schema markup or special .txt files, which is, again, not everybody will care or understand that. You shouldn't have to be honest with you, if you're an attorney.
It's not important.
But well, I would say schema is important from a traditional SEO.
I was talking about the TXT, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
TXT. The schema is, it's not saying, Google didn't say don't do schema. It said you don't need special schema in order to show up in AI overviews, right? Schema is what I would consider good SEO hygiene, right?
Yeah.
Because it's data about data. It helps the bots understand what the page is and what it is. And,
of course.
But yeah, there's nothing special that
nothing
you need
special.
in order to show up for AI.
That's right.
It's
That's
just good SEO.
Exactly. Other thing, you don't need to chunk your content.
Yep.
Which again, let's think about this, people. Like these machines have like consumed the world's knowledge for centuries. Like it's fascinating. Do you really think that in order for them to figure out that you're a personal injury or family law attorney in Dallas, Texas, that you need chunk content on your website?
It's a large language model, right? That's been trained on literally reading the world's, history and, verbatim, right?
Yeah.
And then, but you somehow or another need to, chunk it to let it understand. That makes zero sense to me.
Yeah. So look, we talked about this, by the way, on our other podcast on Book Solid, where we talk, about a lot of these topics with plumbers and HVACs, because it doesn't matter what kind of business you are. These things are just relevant for you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is a great article. We're going to throw the article link in the show notes. You should go check it out. And again, we get passionate about this because we hear this from our clients a lot. We get forwarded emails from other companies that are saying you should be doing X, Y, Z. Yep. Sometimes they're good ideas. More times than not, they're just bad ideas, bad advice. And we want to make sure that if you're a law firm out there, whether or not you're working with Scorpion or you're working with another agency, you're doing something on your own, don't fall for snake oil. You're just going to go chase rabbits, and it's not going to add value to what you're trying to do and accomplish.
I think the key that you always need to take a step back and go, what's good for my potential clients?
Amen. Yes.
At the end of the day, that's, we were talking about earlier about, Google wants to rank websites that are high quality, that's going to be helpful for their users, right? And so when you always look at what are you going to do online through the lens of, is this helpful for my potential new client, then you'll never go wrong.
No, that's right.
Right?
That's a really great call out. And the other kind of layer of that, and this is kind of scary to say, but it is true, is that all these companies, Google, ChatGPT, Amazon, like these big hyperscaling companies, they're pushing the boundaries of technology being more like humans, not us being more like technology. So if anything, what used to be really technical is actually going to get probably less technical over time.
Yep.
Right? So when you think about, again, a lot of the foundational SEO things are still really, really important.
Yeah.
Having a well-structured website, all of your metadata, your title tags, your H1s, having good sound schema markup. Those are all foundational SEO things. They are important. But you don't need special things for AI. And if anything, I would argue probably over time, those things become a little less important. We'll see. That hasn't happened yet, but that's my prediction.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap up. A couple of other big Google updates that are worth kind of touching on are around advertising. So Google's launching a lot of new ad products. We're not going to get in the detail of them, but I would say that the big takeaway for me on these ad products is that Google is saying and signaling more than ever to advertisers how critical their first-party data is.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about what first-party data is and why it's important.
So I think everybody will appreciate this watching it. Not all leads are created equal.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And so, traditionally people are, you got this many leads, blah, 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 right? Well, unless you want to continue to get more and more and more bad leads, you can't continue to optimize towards those same things, right? So first party data would be something like, this is a good lead. This is the type of lead that I want.
Yes.
Right? And so how can you get that information back to Google so that Google, as it's optimizing, because it has some leeway within your campaigns, despite what we do, right?
Sure.
But telling it, this is good, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is good, I want more of those. This is bad, don't give me any more of those, right?
Yes.
That would be an example of first party data. So doing things like tying into your CRM, right?
Yeah.
So all the leads come in, your intake team's working it, right? They're going to disqualify a lead because it's maybe not in there. They're a divorce firm and they really need an immigration lawyer, right?
Yep.
So being able to get that signal back to Google, not good, right?
Yes.
That would be a thing of first party data.
Yes.
The ultimate would be which of these clicks then turned into leads actually turned into a case that made us some money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so if you can get each of those bits back to Google, bits of data back to Google,
right,
ultimately all the way to the end of this became a case, right? That's your first party data.
That's right.
Right? Because that's things that you know that Google doesn't know, right?
Yeah,
all it knows is some
unique to
clicks.
your firm.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
They're unique to you and you alone.
That's right.
The combination of all that data, your lead data, which became cases, like that is very unique to you as a firm. And yeah, I think where you're going is that when you share this data back with Google, or you work with a company like us who has an advertising platform that's plugged into not just Google, but Meta and to Bing and to a lot of other directories, we can use this data to say, basically, in short, tell these publishers, go get me more like this.
That's right.
And get me fewer of these bad ones that don't really fit my ideal client profile.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, we've invested a ton of time and resources into integrations over the last couple of years.
Integrations with your practice management systems.
That's right.
Case
That's
management
right.
systems. Yep.
Because we've sent first-party data back to Google for a long time at Scorpion. But it's always done like monthly through Google Sheets, send me your case sheets, right? And then we can match it up to the initial click and then send that data back. Now we're actually able to get that data almost in real time, right?
Yeah.
And so a click yesterday that turned into a case today, we can send that back. And with AI, the more data it has, the smarter decisions it can make.
That's right.
Right. And the faster it can do it.
Yep.
So the quicker you can tell it that was really good, give me more of those, the quicker it can go out and get more of those types of leads.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think the big takeaway here, and by the way, like you can go, we'll post a bunch of articles around some updates that Google's making around ad units. But I think one of the things that's clear is that Google is really trying, well, first of all, Google knows a lot about all of us, right? But what they're doing from an advertising perspective is they are more and more pushing advertisers to blend. Don't just think about search, but think about things like your visual ads, like your video ad content, your display content. They're bundling these things in their Performance Max product today. And the more first-party data you have to optimize that ad product specifically, the better your performance is typically going to be.
Yeah, I've always said that I should have gone into e-commerce because like e-commerce is super easy because Google knows everything about you,
Yeah,
right?
because everything happens online.
Online, you're shopping through Chrome, right? You're clicking, you're purchasing using potentially Google Pay or Apple Pay or something like that. But then you know what? Also, the receipt comes to your Gmail.
Yeah, that's right.
So Google can see all of that, right?
Yeah.
With law firms, historically, it's been like, we got some leads. Some
the
clicks
research
turned into
happens
calls.
online. The lead typically happens on a phone call, offline.
Which Google may or may not see, right? If
That's
it's
right.
a click, a mobile click, which is most of them now, they can see that through conversion tracking and things like that. And they can see maybe the length of time or whatever. But never really past lead has Google been able to get that information.
That's right.
Right. And so that's the first party data that some of these new tools tie into different things, right? So you can pass that data back and forth. Or again, work with somebody like us who has these integrations both with Google and all the publishers and the CRMs that you're working in already.
Yeah,
right?
that's
so
right.
it's not another tool that you have to go purchase.
All right, last topic on ads. Let's talk about LSAs. Big hot topic. Almost every attorney wants to figure out how can I take advantage of LSAs because it is a cost per lead driven product. It's not a cost per click product.
Yep.
The variances of cost per lead typically aren't as wild as traditional Google Ads products are.
Yep. It's at the top of the page.
It's at the top, and it's at the top of the page. Yeah, it typically shows up above, right? But Google's made some updates recently, particularly around a couple of areas. One, they kind of blended the Google Business Profile reviews with your LSA reviews, so they're kind of all one and the same now. But I think the one that I really want to spend a couple minutes on is your intake and how quickly you respond to or answer phone calls from LSAs.
Yep.
So we see this as critical for a couple of reasons. I'm curious, though, when you talk to attorneys, because you're managing some of our largest clients and you and your team are, how are they reacting to the need to be Johnny on the spot, for lack of a better descriptor, on responding to LSA ads?
Yeah, well, if you rewind a little bit on the history of these types of ads, they were originally home services ads, right? And it started with plumbing and HVAC and electrical, and a lot of those businesses are notorious for not answering their phone right away.
That's right.
Right? So one of the big three factors from the very get-go with these types of ads was responsiveness.
Yes.
Right? So responsiveness rate is what they call it on the back end. Because they want to reward people who actually answer their call, right? Because they're going to show you in this prime position at the top of the page. And they're charging for the lead,
that's
right?
That's
so they want people to answer the call so they can make some money, but also be helpful, right? So that's been a factor all the way through. But now what's interesting is they're actually showing how quickly you respond to, specifically in message leads, obviously. But that's a big factor, right? And our data shows, and we've talked to Google, if you drop below a certain threshold on your responsiveness rate, the ability to then show back up again after that,
that's the key.
Plummets.
That's the key.
Right? So no matter if you've got a $100,000 a month budget,
right,
if you're not answering your phones, you're not going to show at the top.
That's the key. I think, what I've seen, some of the data is that if you respond in under 60 minutes, you're typically going to be okay.
Yeah.
But once it dips beyond 60 minutes, like your impressions on LSAs could decrease by 50%.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think the broader point, and they'll throw an image up of an LSA result here, but the thing that's starting to surface is that when you look at LSA ads, and Google tests these things a lot, but more and more they're starting to show in the ad, this attorney typically responds in under 15 minutes.
Yep.
Or this attorney responds in a few hours. Depending on your plight, right? And like how serious your situation is.
A couple hours, skip.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They're going to have some really strong Google reviews for me to sit there and wait for somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm an educated buyer, and I know that reviews can't be bought for the most part. So if someone just really shines because of their quantity and quality of reviews, maybe.
Yeah.
But, again, if somebody's in jail or something bad just happened right this second, like I'm not going to wait a couple hours. That's just not what I'm going to do. And I'm going to look at all the people that typically respond in a few minutes.
Same.
I'm also a busy person,
yeah,
right? And so I don't have just time to sit here and call a bunch of businesses for whatever. Like when I have 5 minutes to call and get something, like I need some help right then.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they're going to call me back in 3 hours. I'm on the phone with somebody.
That's right. That's right.
And then it'll be the next day before I can call them back. And then if they have to, it's just one of those things. And I'm not unique. A lot of people are just like me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's that important to respond to leads. Plus, it's just good intake practice anyways.
I think that's the key, right? Is like, again, if you think about this through the lens of delivering great experiences to my clients.
Yep.
Right? Your clients are in a pretty heavy situation typically if they need an attorney.
That's right.
Right? So it's just good business practice to make sure that you're capitalizing and you're being really responsive. So I think the takeaways for if you're going to invest in LSAs, which most attorneys should be doing, the things that you need to keep in mind are, number one, you need great reviews.
Yep.
And you need a steady stream of them. So you're going to have a practice of asking your clients to leave you reviews.
Yep.
And you're going to need to be super responsive. That means answering the phone, so making sure that someone in your firm or a partner is answering the phones. And then message leads. You need to have message leads activated because that increases your ability to be shown.
Yep.
And you need some type, hopefully either somebody sitting waiting for message leads to come in. The more likely thing you should do is use automation. Like we've got a great product called Scorpion Connect that you can actually plug in to message leads that will respond immediately on behalf of your firm.
Yeah.
So reviews, intake, answering the phone, message leads activation, and responding quickly. Do those things well, and you're typically going to see that you're going to be getting good lead flow from LSAs.
Yeah, I just add a couple housekeeping things to that is make sure you've got, a bunch of good quality pictures in there.
Good point.
Google likes things to be complete, right? So make
Yes.
sure your profile is fully complete. So that means adding pictures. And now there's like little call outs that you can add on open to hire new clients or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
in your profile.
A couple of those things, yeah. But,
Yeah.
Again, just completeness is always important.
Amen.
Both from the Google business profile and the local service ads profile.
Well, we covered a lot today.
Yeah, we did.
Lots about Google, a little bit about AI. We're going to get into more AI. I'm sure that's going to be a theme of every episode that we do for the foreseeable future. Been another great episode of Digital Counsel. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll be back again real soon. Remember, leads are good, cases are better. Until next time.